How we're going to review of Nightcrawler, directed by Dan Gilroy, a film that follows an oddball who becomes a successful LA crime stringer for his psychotic ambitions. Now, before I start this review, I do want to say that Nightcrawler is a film, for me at least, I find to be kind of hard to review because I came at the film sort of mixed. There are some brilliant things about Nightcrawler, however, there are also some things that kind of ruin the entire experience for me, to be honest with you, which I'll discuss a little later. First of all, the cinematography by Robert Elswit is great, as the cinematography always is. The streets of LA look truly beautiful, and you can really tell that this film was influenced by a film like Drive, at least in terms of aesthetically and stylistically. The score by James Newton Howard is also a nice little addition, and the score is a little different from what we have typically come to know as a James Newton Howard score. It's a little bit more techno-y, there's a little bit more electronics, a lot more boom to it. It's kind of reminiscent to, again, like Drive. And although there are a couple of scenes where the scores seem to be placed in sort of an awkward way, the music itself really did do a really good job at coinciding with the film. Now, what this film does brilliantly, though, is the way it sets up suspense during some of its scenes. I mean, there are some scenes where I was on the edge of my seat and I was gritting my teeth. And when a film does that, you know that's when a film has succeeded. And even though I foresaw how exactly these scenes were going to be played out, the scenes themselves still managed to be very much thrilling and engrossing. And not only that, but the sound design is truly magnificent in this film. And the sound of that Dodge Challenger was just a giant eargasm. But what is one of the best things about this film is a performance by Jake Gyllenhaal. And in fact, this might just be his very best performance, either that or the one from Brokeback Mountain. But regardless, in this film, he creeped me the fuck out. I'm not kidding, he was that creepy in the film. And those bulging eyes made it even worse. Like other people have said, Jake Gyllenhaal, he is nowhere in this film. They got somebody else to play this role because this is not Jake Gyllenhaal. But all jokes aside, he is really, really good in this movie. And what's so great about him playing this character is that he is charismatic, yet very, very off-putting. He's a bit of a misanthrope. He is somebody who lacks a great sense of empathy. I mean, to put it bluntly, he's a bit of a sociopath. I think deep down that he realizes that he's a bit on the crazy side, but doesn't really care. He's a bit content with it all. Weirdly enough, he's actually pretty non-threatening, but what's funny is to watch his interactions with people and how he manipulates people and kind of gets them to fall in his little trap, so to speak. However, with the good, there's also the bad, and one of which is where I had to suspend my disbelief a couple of times. There are scenes where Jake Gyllenhaal is held back by the police at crime scenes and that kind of stuff. However, there are also scenes where he just kind of casually strolls on in, actually mucks up the crime scene, and just kind of strolls on out with nobody even stopping him or asking questions or anything like that. And to me, I kind of found that to be a bit of a problem. Now, one of the bigger problems that I have with the film is that I think the film's message is a little heavy-handed. I understand that some people have claimed this film to be a bit of a satire. I don't know if I'm quite there, but regardless, the film's message is that journalism has sort of this sinister underbelly surrounding it, which I think is fine, but again, I think it's a bit overkill. There are also portions of the film that are kind of like a newsroom drama, which I didn't particularly care for. To me, where the film exceeds is with its night crawling scenes. Which now brings me to my biggest problem with the film, and that is the film has a pretty long setup. And what I mean by setup is that we really don't see anything all too exciting until about well into an hour into the film, and it's not too long after that the film just ends, and kind of a lackluster ending in my personal opinion. I mean, really, it's like the film just got good, then just decided to end prematurely, and I personally think that the first half of the film could have shed a little bit of weight, because the first half of the film mainly consists of the newsroom drama and Jake Gyllenhaal night crawling around crime scenes that are not the most interesting. There are also these scenes that care towards the Jake Gyllenhaal character and the Bill Paxton character's rivalry, which I didn't really care all too much for either. However, those scenes and the Jake Gyllenhaal scenes where he is not crawling in the arbitrary crime scenes, for the lack of a better word, they do give the viewer an insight to his de-evolution to the later parts of the film, which I do believe are essential, but I do think they go on perhaps maybe a little too long, or at least in comparison to the overall film. Now, as I've been talking about this film, my rating for this film has actually gone up a notch, I'm happy to say. However, at the same time, I'm still relatively unsure whether or not I actually like this film or not. But regardless, I'm going to give Nightcrawler a low 3 out of 5. As always, I'm Colyn Kirkland. Thank you so much for watching, and happy Halloween.